Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Our guest today, Shanen Ebersole. Shanen, it's really good to have you on. Appreciate you being here. And can you tell us, first of all, where you're calling in from or where you're on the way to and what you do for a living with Ebersole Cattle Co?
Well, I am Shanen Ebersole with Ebersole Cattle Co. And today I am headed up to pick up some new heifers. So that's why sitting in the truck
awesome.
is, like I told you earlier, when I sit still the most is when I'm trapped in a vehicle. So that's why we're doing this here.
No, fair enough. I mean, this is great. I mean, this is like exactly what I try to have on the podcast. It's just kind of a day in the life of the entrepreneur, like the real stuff that's going on. So I love it. So I guess tell me a little bit about your background with your, obviously, ranching business. Can you tell me, like, was this like a family business that you got into once you got old enough, or was this something you started on your own? Can you tell me a little bit more about your background?
Yeah, well, Ebersole Cattle Co. is my husband and I. I did not grow up in a ranching family. Both Bo and I are first generation ranchers.
Awesome.
He grew up and he had some cows, like 10 cows growing up. We met at Iowa State University. When we met, I was nearly vegetarian. I swore that I would never eat anyone I met. I grew up a horse girl outside Des Moines, Iowa, and now I sell grass-fed beef. And you couldn't pry my cows out of my cold, dead hands. My cows and my kids are everything to me. What we do is we raise grass-fed beef and we sell it direct to consumers because you don't have to buy a half a cow to know where your food comes from anymore. And I obviously have been a mom and am a mom, and I focus on helping moms feed their families real food, but easy, because we don't have hours to spend time in the kitchen anymore, but we want to know where our food comes from and we want to have real ingredients and everything. But I focus on helping moms cook once and eat 3 times with real food. Simple recipes that can be repurposed throughout the week to save time and create time in our lives.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I love that story and I love your why and, why you're doing it, the things that you're doing. And obviously, talking to so many, other, direct to consumer food brands, you obviously find that, the mothers out there, they're buying most of the stuff to feed their families, right? Whether it's, something that is, made specifically for men or women or not, women are usually the ones buying it, even if it's something that is specific for, their sons or their husbands or whatever it might be. I love that about this. And so I guess what kind of drove you to, obviously it makes sense with your kind of mission for the brand, but what kind of really drove you to want to do the direct to consumer model, I suppose, more than, maybe a traditional model for a rancher to sell like into like wholesale predominantly? I find that this is a big area of a trend where I think consumers are looking to buy more direct from people in the ag community as well. But what was kind of a big push for you to want to do the D2C model rather than going down the wholesale route?
I think for me, it was my personal experience, being that I grew up not in a household that raised beef. And so having a totally new perspective on what the average consumer learned about beef and knows about beef. And once you get to know your rancher, you feel so much more comfortable about what's going on, what your animals are being fed, what they're not being fed. Antibiotics are played out to be super, super scary, but you don't have to use as many antibiotics if you raise your cattle in a healthful way. That's number one. Number two, you wouldn't deny your child an antibiotic if they needed that antibiotic. And so ranchers are the same way with their animals. If that animal is going to need an antibiotic, they're going to care for that animal the best way they have. And that's to use the tools and the veterinarian resources to help that animal be their healthiest. I think those misconceptions and that connection that I didn't have growing up to my food source, I think that really drove me to want to sell directly to the consumer. And then the other aspect is the definite corruption in our beef industry. The beef industry in America is controlled by 4 major companies, and those companies control all of your food. Every single bit of your food, unless you buy it directly from a rancher. And they also control all of the prices that farmers and ranchers receive for their product. And so, when we were a lot younger, the buyers decided that they didn't want to purchase any cattle that had any white on them at all. So I was a young mom, 2 children at the time. My husband had a day job, and it was my responsibility that year to take our calves to the sale barn. And we take our cows to the sale barn. Keep in mind that this one transaction determines if we make our entire year's house payment, everything for the year. This one sitting, and all of our calves are out of the same bull. They all look pretty uniform as far as shape and size and everything. The only difference was 3 calves had some white on their hip. We raised Maine on June cattle, and our bull that year, because he had some white in his genetic history. You know, it's like blue eyes or red hair. Every once in a while, you get a wild red-haired child that comes out the woodwork, and no one in the immediate family has red hair. That's what the white was for us. And so I'm sitting there in the sale barn, and they're doing the math pretty, I don't have a ton of experience at this, so I'm barely keeping up with prices and making sure that the kids are sitting quiet and everything. And they go to sell our calves, and our calves come in. By the way the other cattle sold, I think we'll be okay. I think we can make our farm payment. I think we're going to be good. And all of a sudden, to me, they pull off 3 calves and they sort them to the side because they had white on them. And so he says, I'll take the rest. So they sold it at a great price. And I didn't know that they could just pull these calves off to the side. I thought it was kind of a package deal.
Right.
And so they pulled these 3 calves off to the side. And they were some of our bigger calves. And everything is sold by the pound in a sale barn. And these 3 calves literally bought half price of what the other calves did. And they had the exact same type of genetics, meaning they would finish the same, make the same quality, all of these sorts of things. But he called them Holsteins. Holstein is a dairy cow, and said he didn't want the Holstein, and literally cut the price that we received in half. I was about in tears. I didn't know that they could do that. I didn't know if this meant that we could make our farm payment or not make our farm payment, which is our house payment. So I didn't know if my house payment was going to be short. I was just beside myself of that. And my husband, having grown up in this industry a little bit, he said, well, why didn't you just keep them? And I'm like, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know they let you do that at cattle auctions. At most other auctions, sold means sold. You take what you get, and that's that. Mm-hmm. And so that really instigated me to start delving deeper in the direct-to-consumer sales world. And that created a huge spiral of excitement for me. I started getting excited about the cattle industry again because I could control our cattle, I could control our prices, and most importantly to me, I could help other people feed their family directly from the ranch and connect to their food source again. Because I started keeping all the calves that had a little white mark here or something that the sale barn would dock us for. And I started very slowly, about 20 years ago, in keeping our calves for ourselves and our friends and family. And I started learning more and more about grass-fed beef. Again, remember, I was nearly vegetarian when I grew up. And so my cows, my mama cows, are kind of my babies. Everybody, my email, I sign off as Ranch Mama Shanen because I am mama to the mama cows at our ranch. They are my girls. I can walk outside and honk the horn on my UTV and everybody keeps running. So I started learning more about grass-fed beef, and I had a pet cow at the time who was Lacey. She was the first cow we bought as a married couple, and Lacey had some issues. She was starting to go blind. She was getting pretty old. She was 10 or 11 years old. She was starting to go blind, but I would let her out every morning to go graze grass, and I would call her in every night and lock her up in a safe pen. And so I decided I don't like hand feeding these beef calves and then harvesting them for myself, and I want to do more of this. So what if I let them go out with Lacey every day? And so that's exactly what I started doing. I started keeping our beef calves, and I started putting them with Lacey, and Lacey would take them out to grass in the morning, and she would bring them in from grass in the evening. And it just so happens that same year, we had a little pink eye in our pasture. And some of our calves, because it didn't get treated quick enough, some of those calves went blind, or they didn't see quite as well as what they could have. Mm-hmm. But Lacey knew the pasture. She knew where everything was. So she'd take those babies with her, and she'd take them out to the pasture, and she'd graze, and she'd bring them back in. And 9 times out of 10, when I got there to do chores in the evening, she had them all in the barn, and they were relaxing and grazing. And so that's what started our work. And I started learning more and more about the benefit of grass-fed beef. And all of these things just have led me to have a deep connection with our consumer and a deep connection to our animals. And I say that we have happy, healthy beef. That's our our monthly club box is Happy Healthy Beef Club.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I love that.
I want all of our beef to be, and that's just what we do. And so now we've got bigger pastures that are all just beef calves, but 9 times out of 10, they go out in the morning, they come in at night, they've got a nice little shelter, and they know when Mama Shanen comes out to the pasture, they're going to get fresh grass. They all get excited and they come running and bucking over to me and wait for me to move the fence to a new pasture. They're all easygoing and docile, and that's what we do. And our Happy Healthy Beef boxes are about 10 pounds of beef. It's like getting a quarter beef 1 month at a time. You're always going to get a steak or two. You're always going to get some of the most amazing ground beef. And then you're going to get some female cut, from roast to bratwurst, all the fun things, fajita beef that we do. And then it always includes 1 to 2 recipes that work, remember, 3 ways. So you kick your beef once, and then you get to eat 3 separate meals.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. 9 times out of 10, those separate meals will be ready in less than 15 minutes, because that's the kind of mom I am. I'm a busy mom on the go. I learned how to cook by copying a box of Hamburger Helper. I didn't grow up with a mom who loved to cook. My dad loved to cook, and my dad worked nights. So a home cooked meal when dad was home was a box of Hamburger Helper. I literally started changing my life with that box of Hamburger Helper. I looked at the box and said, cheesy mac. Okay, it's got ground beef. We got that. It's got some macaroni. I can do that. It's got some sort of packet of cheesy stuff that makes it thick. Okay, how do you do that? A little bit of cornstarch and some real cheese grated in with a little bit of milk will do the exact same thing. And so that's the type of recipes that I cook. I teach moms how to make casseroles out of crock pot meals, so that literally there's no cook time for your second 2 meals. And by the way, when I make those casseroles, I always make 2, because you make the first one and eat it that night, and then you put the other one in the freezer without cooking it. You put it in the freezer when you get home, first thing when you walk in the door, and it's ready to go in an hour and a half after you get home from a ball game or any of those sorts of things. So that's the type of cooking that I think moms are looking for, while having the real food connection. And obviously, we meet lots of people virtually nowadays. So I do it all through stories and Facebook posts, and the middle sarcastic daughter does the TikTok for a little bit of entertainment, but just helping moms get to know what happens on the ranch through those daily life stories and Facebook feeds and Instagram stories, so that you can know your rancher. I mean, really know your rancher, but you can live 1,000 miles away from me and still eat our beef. I ship to Maryland, Florida, and California each and every month. And yes, it works just fine. We have insulated boxes, and so we ship on Mondays, and it gets there by Thursday or Friday. And
That's
your
amazing.
beef is still frozen and ready to go, and you have those recipes in there. Usually some fun extras. Again, not coming from an ag background, I think that we should use everything our animals give us. I think that is very important to me and to us. I didn't know that you could use all of these things, but I really worked hard to learn these things. And this month I made tallow balm with our grass-fed beef fat. And so it's an excellent additive lotion for face cream, for skin cream, all of those sorts of things. And so I threw in some tallow balm this month, some vanilla lavender tallow balm. I always throw in some beef sticks, shelf-stable beef sticks. So you can throw them in that gym bag. You can put them in the kids' backpack, because we all know that when our kids come home today, they're starving for that. And when running back and forth between practices and everything, you can have snacks in the truck so that you don't have to stop by the drive-thru. Or let's be realistic, mom gets the hangry the most. Mom is running errands and gets very, very grouchy and very hungry. So the beef stick saves the day for the kids and the mom.
That's amazing. Well, Shanen, I just want to say thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate you sharing your story. I love what you're doing. I love your why behind your brand and why you started this business. And so I really appreciate you coming on and sharing. And I just want to wish you the best of luck, continued success in everything that you're doing. And I really look forward to staying in touch, and travels on your way there.
Thank you so much. You have a great day too.
You too. Thank you, Shanen. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.